5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
I'm back. Hello. For about the third time it feels like today. Welcome along to LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Evening, afternoon, morning, night, day. Bye. Hello. Wherever you are, one of those will apply to you. Thank you very much for joining us. If you missed it earlier, do get on to the LTID TV website on YouTube, because I did a show earlier with Kieran Maguire. It was sort of 2 o'clock. It wasn't, it was fortunate to have to fit in with him. He's a little bit busy, shall we say. It's called Another Fine Mess. Very interesting points coming up. How many points he thinks we will get deducted next season. How many, why we're being charged for putting in the accounts late. That's part of the PSR charge against us. And yet, the accountants and a certain CEO signed it off on the 19th of December. Didn't have to be until the 31st. What happened to them? Maybe they ended up at the bottom of the pile, eh, Sue? Know what you've been up to. Do watch it. We talk management plans, I say points deductions, and everything else as well. And even the away end toilets. Guess who got blamed for them blocking? But the exciting news, and yes, I know, I couldn't believe it either. Ruud van Nistelrooy may be leaving the club. Please God, please God, please God. Russell Martin may be joining. Now that I've got 3 Russell Martin fans in this evening, Jack from the final whistle, Manny blue-tinted glasses, and Wayne, who just hangs about and is always there to come in. They're all huge Russell Martin fans, so we will be getting them in. You're 2 Russell Martin fans. I think that's what he meant. But let's have a look. He couldn't make it tonight, but he has sent a video in. Here's what you could have won, Tom. Let's just see what Tom thinks about this appointment.
It's looking like it could be Russell Martin, who is the next manager of Leicester City. And my first instinctive reaction was someone stop Ruud's taxi before it leaves Seagrave. Right, okay, let's quickly get into this and see what we think. But firstly, there's obviously a tactical reason I think he's being considered, because it veers back into the Enzo territory we've had previously, right? My only problem with that is, if that was the case back when Enzo left, we should have stuck with that strategy with our next appointment anyway. So I find it a bit bizarre how we flip-flopped around into this position now, where we seem to be going back. And I have an issue with Russell Martin as a character, I'm afraid. I think he's about as likeable as stepping on a piece of Lego. He will defend himself, he will do his system, and he will do it to death. He proved it at Southampton, right? Great, fine, if that's going to work for us. And it very well might do in the short term. But we just come off a weekend where Jamie Vardy has had a lovely celebration of his career at Leicester and a goodbye. And the thing that keeps cropping up to me is there was one other person getting cheers in that stadium. And I'm not saying that man should be getting the job. I'm saying there's an ideal around that man we seem to have forgotten as a football club, which I think is a big problem, and I think it's going to continue to be a big problem until we address it. And that man obviously was Nigel Pearson. I think the problem is with someone like Russell Martin, I'm seeing a trend here now where Top seems to be going for people who are telling him what he wants to hear, which I'm not sure is the right way to go when we've been living in a time of failure. I think.
There we go. He does go on for a bit longer, but just wanted him to get his point on. This is Let's Talk Leicester. Let me get my guests in, and we'll do that straight after this. Gentlemen, good evening, one and all.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening. It sounds like somebody's hoovering there, which I'm surprised about, knowing you three as well as I do.
Before he gets to Leicester.
Jamie Vardy's having a real party now, isn't he?
Yeah, just hoovering that red carpet, getting it ready for him. Look, I was jokingly saying about the three Russell Martin fans, but first of all, Wayne. Is it just me, or can anybody else hear that?
I can hear it as well.
I can hear it too.
Right.
I can see if he's in the Teletubbies.
Are you stopping now?
I don't know what's going on here. We'll carry on. You know, like the Brits that we are. We carry on, don't we?
It's not Man United. It's not Man United or Tottenham scoring the crowd noise anyway.
Oh, do you want with the excitement of a new manager possibly through the door of the calibre of Russell Martin? I'd forgotten all about the Europa League final. Wayne, let me come to you first. Your thoughts when you heard the news?
Bloody hell were the two words, really. And then when I did Google it, and then you come to a BBC website article about Russell Martin, lost 13 of his first 16, you know, what led to the sacking. And you'd think it's got it, if it was April the 1st, you'd think it was an April Fool's joke, because why would you employ a manager that got sacked and replaced because he was stubbornly playing the same way? I think when you, like last season with Maresca, a lot like Faz and different people, you get delusions of grandeur when you come up automatically from the Championship and you think you're really brilliant footballers and you can cut it in the Premiership. And obviously that's not been the case the last two seasons, so he's just not got the goods. And to be honest, although I was Ruud van Nistelrooy out, unless we come up with somebody better, and Martin's not one of them, I'd say keep Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Your thoughts, Jack, when you heard the news?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the club's decision making, to be honest. It's one bad decision after another, you know. It just shows there's no thought process between these type of appointments of who they actually want and the style of football they want and that, which I've discussed on other channels and that. But yeah, the thing is, you want a manager for the long term, innit? Like, you want a manager who can do Championship and the Premier League. But the thing is, Russell Martin's clearly proven he's a Championship manager at best. He's stubborn with his approach. He's one of the worst Southampton managers to ever witness the Premier League with the record that they showed last season. And Leicester seem to be desperate and panicking, you know. It could be very much a Steve Cooper appointment all over again. It shows it by the fans not even getting on board with the idea. They don't even want it. So another lame decision by the board, and that's been another scenario for the last, few years now, how bad things have actually got under Leicester, and it shows with the appointments that are on the cards, aren't they, if you're looking at it for Russell Martin. You know, there's no manager that will probably touch his wear barge pole.
Hopefully, Manny, when you heard the news, you weren't high up in a block of flats or anything when you were able to jump. I dread to ask you, but what did you think when you heard the news?
Thought really good job that I must be doing, coming on all these shows and channels talking about how you get the process and how you should find managers. I really thought, I'm really glad that people are paying attention to what I'm saying and come up with Russell bloody Martin. Jesus Christ, honestly. It's the same problem that keeps getting us into a mess, essentially. There is a lack of football acumen, understanding in the football club. They kind of have a little bit of an idea. It just strikes me as somebody who watches a little bit of football and then they come up with this sort of solution. Yeah, he did okay in the Championship. He got Southampton up. They got. I mean, what are the reasons that you can come up with this guy? But the deeper worrying point is, if I ask them, can you articulate to me the differences between Russell Martin and Enzo? Because everybody thinks that they're very, very similar. Can you detail me what the differences are and why one system is effective and the other one is less effective? If you can give me a competent answer to that question, then you're qualified to give a proper opinion about why you think Russell Martin should be our next manager. If you cannot answer that question in a detailed view, then you are not the required level that we need of people deciphering who our next manager should be.
I mean, Manny converted me, Wayne, earlier in the season. I am now a Manny disciple in the fact that we choose the manager based on the style.
Goal! There's been a goal in the Europa League final. Sorry, Chris, to disturb you, but
I didn't know. I just need to go and change my underpants. I wonder what the hell was going on.
There's a goal. Do you want to guess who scored, boys?
Please tell me it's Man United. Please tell me it's Man United.
It's Big Ange! 1-0 and it's the Tottenham £50 million man, Brennan Johnson.
Jesus Christ.
Depressing.
God.
Sorry, Chris.
No. So, I only want Man United before anybody has a go at me because I've got family. So if it's family, team, or Tottenham, I'm going for the family. But no, as I was saying before Manny laid an egg, Manny converted me because I was very much in the case of we need somebody to get us up, we need somebody that might just keep us up, and then we move on. But as Manny said, you need somebody that you need to choose the style of football you want to play, and then fit the peg into that hole, if you like. But we just had a manager who was that stubborn that he's lost more. We've got records for the most losses, most away losses, and least goals, and all that. Surely, no matter, even if you're looking at the same-ish style, and I know Manny's going to explain the difference later between him and Ruud, but even when you look at that, you don't, having been through somebody that stubborn, surely somebody's saying we need somebody to be a little bit flexible.
That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Somebody with coaching intelligence and football intelligence. I mean, Maresca, that's the thing about Maresca. You look at Maresca and, yeah, he did leave us, and he obviously looked at our squad and thought, oh, Leicester squad or Chelsea squad? I think I'd prefer the Chelsea squad. But, I mean, he signed Vestergaard, didn't he? So he obviously thought Vestergaard was going to be good enough for the Premier League. That is deluded.
Well, he gave him an extension, didn't he?
Yeah, and also he would not change his mind in the Championship. And I honestly don't think he would have cut it with the players we've got in the Premier League anyway. But Ruud van Nistelrooy is stubborn. Maybe managers are just stubborn, basically. But yeah, you do need the flexibility, and people like Glasner, Danny Roll, lots of people are flexible, and a lot of managers are employing a long throw. We'll play two up top and play to the strengths of the players that we've got, and that's been the problem this year. But definitely joined up thinking is the way to go. But I do understand why the club went for Cooper, as in, what's the number one objective last season, 24-25? It was to stay in the Premier. So, you can understand it. They might have said, we'll give him a 3-year contract. He can keep us up in the Prem for a year. Then we'll pay him off, and then we'll get a footballing manager. Yeah. So I do get why they did it. But, the long-term goal, as Craig said, is the coaches coach the players. The club has a long-term plan to buy the players it needs to play the system.
Jack, I mean, as Wayne said there, all right, look, Enzo was very stubborn. He didn't move, but he was winning games. And when you're winning games, you can turn around and say, why am I going to change it? Ruud van Nistelrooy, for example, Russell Martin, for example, neither of them. I mean, Russell Martin has just made Southampton almost the worst football team, in and I know he left and wasn't there at the end, but they were almost the worst football team in Premier League history. And it's fine to be stubborn and say, this is what I'm doing when you're winning, because you wouldn't want it to be changed every week. But neither Ruud nor Russell Martin have been that.
No, they've not. This is the issue, and it's how you adapt to that way. And you look at Ruud; it's not gone well for him, has it? 26 games, 5 wins, 3 draws. 18 defeats. You look at Russell Martin, like you say, the worst ever Southampton manager in history. If I'm honest, they could have finished below Derby's record, and like you say, he was never willing to change. The players couldn't get on board with his style of football or anything. They knew it couldn't work. He was stubborn. There was just no vision for Southampton, and he clearly didn't have the minerals for the Premier League. So Leicester's thinking is now that with the points deduction and everything that's being thrown about, PSR and all that, you're probably going to get a handful of managers, aren't you? You're going to get managers who don't even want to look at Leicester, So you're going to end up with probably the poorest managers of the lot, and you're going to have to deal with it. But then it's the board's fault because they've got us into this situation in the first place where we can't really battle it out, can we, for better managers?
No. Manny, I've heard this said a lot that suddenly Ruud's starting to get points and win games, and I'm just, if I'm laughing, it's because I'm waiting for the expression to come up on Manny's face when I say this. And they might be. Somebody said, I forget who it was now, but said they may be delaying the decision on Ruud van Nistelrooy because they're actually quite impressed with how the team has started playing. I mean, please to God that isn't true. You can't look at what Ruud van Nistelrooy has achieved because most of his good results have come since we've been confirmed as being relegated when the pressure's been off everybody.
It's called recency bias. And it's not just the fact that we might have picked up a couple of results, but who do we pick up those results against? Okay, when we play against a half-decent outfit, he got a point against Brighton. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But a home win against Southampton or a home win against Ipswich, the two teams that are markedly worse than us in the league, I mean, that isn't particularly, enough on your CV to get me excited about Premier League campaign. On the flip side, you could argue that there will be two of the better teams in the Championship, and Ruud, along with the 6-2 win against QPR in the Cup in January, has shown that when he comes against a Championship level side with this Leicester team, he can get a result. I mean, that's a fair enough thing, but I'm not overly concerned with the Championship. And everybody says, we need a team to get us up. I'm already looking 3 steps down the line, and then I'm trying to reverse join the dots about how do we get to that end point. And the first leg of that journey is the Championship.
Indeed. I'm just looking there, like you say, it's Southampton. I mean, the Forest game, but then if the players can't get up to the Forest game, then you've got to question it, haven't you? And like I say, Ipswich, but we still struggled against Wolves. And I'm not one of these who's like, all right, we put in a good performance against Liverpool, but we still lost,
Well, the team selections, I mean, when Ruud has sort of eventually got to, something that works, it's been by process of elimination, not through personal choice. So, like, he didn't have Mavididi playing for 8 games, and then, finally brings Mavididi back in the team. Mavididi has a few good games. Buonannote's been nowhere, and then all of a sudden Buonannote comes in, plays largely central position, which he's not really played much this season. He's played mostly on the right. It actually works. He brings Caleb Okoli out of the blue. He scores a goal, and then he goes back into the blue. These aren't Ruud decisions. He still doesn't know what his best Leicester City team is, and he's been here for 5-6 months. So I don't think that Ruud is finding the solutions by good quality analysis or realising the error of his ways. It's just, that didn't work, we'll try the next thing. That didn't work, we'll try the next thing. We'll go 5 at the back. Oh, that's not working, we'll go back to 4. It's literally try everything until something works. I think you've got to have a manager that's got a bit more about you than doing it that way.
Wayne, I don't know if you saw Russell Martin on Match of the Day, and it's one of those things where they say you can talk a good game because it actually sounded like he had some idea of what he was talking about. But Paul says here, when he was on Match of the Day, he was asked if he was ready to return to football. Martin said he has to be able to work with a good director of football. So is he happy with Rudkin? We know Rudkin's going to be there next year. Whatever, we've got to live with that fact. I mean, is there an argument for saying we stick with Ruud because it's the long-term project and we don't want to keep swapping managers?
As Manny said, it's his intelligence to make decisions and change his mind. Say true intelligence is being able to change your mind when you're presented with new information. And it's like the mastermind game, isn't it? Is it black, white on it? You have 50 goes at doing it with process of slow elimination.
Oh, God, you're showing your age there, mate. But
you'd think Ruud, being a world-class top striker, his thought process in the box were quick thinking, assessing the situation. What are my options? It's a curl around the keeper. It's through the leg of the defender. I'll just hang back because the ball will come to me most probably 50% of the times. He's intelligent in those ways. So why isn't that translating to the way he manages the team? Because he has got players. He's played them out of position. And the trouble is that the Championship is very different from the Premier. You score a lot less goals and you let a lot more goals in. I mean, look at the goals conceded this season by the promoted teams. Absolutely woeful. But do I think, when you look at Gerrard at Coventry, who I think played way better than Sunderland, I mean, they really took the game to them. Do you need to have a couple of seasons of making mistakes and maybe on the trajectory of Ruud, it's too early for him to do things for us? But do I think in the future he's probably a good manager? Yeah, I think he could be. But not Leicester.
But hey, you've read his book, mate. You know what he's capable of. Jack, I mean, when you look at managers that have taken over Leicester, one of the first things they've sort of worked out is over the years, we're not going to be able to do this now, I know, but get the ball to Vardy, and let him do what he does. This season, we haven't got the ball to Vardy. The fact that he's our top scorer with 9 goals is quite frankly a bit embarrassing. But Russell Martin is the guy who oversaw a Southampton team that scored 25 goals in the season. That's less than us. So, if he, I can't see, and, one of the excuses you might say is, well, they were losing, but they were losing, 4-5 or something. But they weren't scoring either. And that sort of thing is what worries me. I just can't see. Surely any manager that comes in has got to be an upgrade.
I don't know if Russell Martin's upgrade to Ruud van Nistelrooy, if I'm honest. I think
that's what I mean. Yeah.
So this shows how the board's thinking with everything. They don't think things through well. There's no actual good thought process of what they actually want and who they want to deliver these things. And this is the issue. You look at Southampton, the players couldn't get on board with it. I know we had to change a few things in the Championship. Leicester did as well. But then you go up to the Premier League, you're not scoring goals, you're getting battered every week, you've got a depleted squad, and how do you change that? He couldn't. He knew he couldn't. You looked at that, I think was it the Tottenham game where they were like 5-0 down at half time, and you're thinking, yeah, he knew he was gone at that point. Russell Martin's negative. He is, you could think of more negatives than positives with him. Southampton didn't even enjoy his football because that's how he panned himself out. But to say what Paul's put out there about a good director of football, well, I think you need to look elsewhere because our director of football ain't got a fucking clue.
We know that. Definitely won't argue with that. But, can you see a world in which, Top sacks him? I can't at the moment, to be honest.
Move him on if you can't sack him. Move him on. Be ruthless. Yeah. Then make the right decision and bring a proper football advisor in. Until that happens, this club's going to be making the same mistakes time and time again.
Indeed. Look, the point that Paul says there, Manny, you could say sticking with Ruud will create stability, but all it will do is create instability. We know for the fact that he's fallen out with Harry Winks, whether you agree with whichever side you're on. It looks like he's fallen out with Koulibaly. Is this the sort of manager we want at the club? Is he creating instability?
I can see what you mean. Ruud constantly says, "I'm trying to, improve standards. Standards aren't good enough. So, if somebody wants to live in London, that's not a standard that I'm willing to accept. And these are the new set of standards, whatever's gone on before, and I'm trying to put in standards." I can see it from his point of view. I've come here by myself. I've only brought my goalkeeping coach. I was promised a lot of money. It never materialised. I'm stuck with Steve Cooper and other players, some players that have been around for years and years thinking the place out, and they want me to work miracles, and it hasn't happened. If you give me my director of football, my youth team coaches, my youth players that I want to find from Holland, and some more support, I can put in place a sort of my Nigel Pearson equivalent version. I think that's what he's saying. The problem is, if that sounds great, it sounds great to me, I'm sure it sounds great to you, but all we can do is judge you by the decisions that you've made that we can verify or say that we agree with or not agree with. And the most important one is team selection for me. Your team selections have been horrible. They've been horrible week after week after week after week. Not once. I mean, one little example. Excuse me. All season I've been crying out to play Mavididi on the left, Facundo in the 10, and Bilal on the right. Mostly because there are three most attacking weapons. They're the most likely to chip in or score a goal or create an assist. Bilal's quite flexible. He could play left, central, right. He could probably play in midfield deeper if he really wanted to. Get Facundo playing central. Don't stick him out on the right. He's not a right winger. He doesn't want to chase back. That's one permutation that he's never once picked. What I did see was Vestergaard getting 10 starts in a row. I saw Jordan Ayew and Cordova Reid getting starts in a row. So your decisions are awful. They're terrible. Like every single week, all of us were screaming, these decisions are terrible. The team's so slow. We've got no mobility, no speed. When you finally got around to picking Casey or giving Monga games, surprise, surprise, Silla, we look better. It was incredible that it took so long to come to something that should take you 5 seconds to figure out. Now, if you think Connor Cody is a better centre-back than Caleb Okoli, then I think you're wrong. You should walk. If you think Danny Ward should get a starting spot when Mads is injured over Jakob, you should be out the door. If you think Mavididi should be benched because I want to play Cordova Reid or are you on the left, you should be out the door. So do I want to entrust all these important decisions and these infrastructure questions to Ruud van Nistelrooy? I respect Ruud. I genuinely like Ruud as a human being. But the guy just can't work out what the best team that he has under his nose, because I don't think he understands my own personal idea about fast twitch fibers that I go on and on about everywhere. But I genuinely, and I'll die by that, it's the most important thing in the top level sport. And he doesn't show any understanding or appreciation of that basic concept. And if you don't get that concept, you're not going to get very far at elite level sport.
Manny, do us all a favour and get off that fence.
I wonder how long it will take before Manny mentioned Mavididi.
I like the guy. Do you know, he'll murder Mavididi, Monga, and Fatawu as a 3 next season, because assuming Bilal goes, is a very exciting trio to me. Like all three of them, they'll do. He might do 5 step overs and lose the ball sometimes, but I like the step over in the first place. Try asking Cordova Reid or are you to do a step over and see how it goes. So those three is an exciting team. If we can get a striker that isn't Daka, then we've really got a tasty forward line. And I think there's a future, but I don't want slow, ponderous football. Like everybody thinks I love Enzo, and I do. But I do think there's a better way than Enzo. Enzo, on speed, would be better. Do it all faster, basically, would be one way. The other way is throttle ball, which I've gone a bit of a monologue, so I won't go into now, but I think there is a more modern way than Enzo type of way, and I think we should adopt that way moving forward.
I'm going to make my next comment from under the desk because I think I'll need that to protect myself from Manny. Because I actually agree, like you say, with those three. Because if Facundo's going, Bilal if he stays, but if not, either Monga or Alves. But I quite fancy Ayew up front because when he's up front, that's his best position. And again, you've got a manager that we've got, or we've still got, unfortunately, that is putting square pegs in round holes. I mean, last time I think we did that, we ended up in the third tier. And I think if you've got Ayew, who in that league gets the ball, can hold it up for the likes of Monga, Makateer even, or Mavadidi, Fataru to come on to, I think, and get those good free kicks. But I'm like I say, I won't carry on with that point because I want to, sleep well tonight. But Wayne, I mean, what Manny was saying there. You've got a manager here that. Do you remember when we got promoted under Nigel Pearson? You could have picked that team 10 weeks in advance because it was a winning team and he stuck with it. When he came up, he was changing it. After that Man United game, he changed it every week. You never knew what, somebody would score a goal and you wouldn't see him again for 3 or 4 weeks. And you're getting that with Ruud. You've got a player, like you say, Coley scores a goal, not even on the bench. Koulibaly, we bought him under Ruud's watch, not anywhere near the bench last week. Dakova Reed, suddenly he was starting games 3 or 4 in a row, wasn't even on the bench. He was starting over Ayew. Surely when the guy has been here, 3/4 of the season, he should know whether he wants Ayew to start or Dakova Reed to start, whether you like them or not. But you don't know who's going to be in the squad, do you?
No, I think Koulibaly, when he came on his debut, I mean, did he get taken off? Was he on the yellow card? But my God, he was impressive. He was running up the wing, he was taking people on, and then all of a sudden, he was playing in central midfield, passing the ball, and he had got confidence on the ball. He was literally waiting for the opposition to come right into his space. Then he's got such intelligence, and then we don't see him again. So some of those decisions, you kind of think, so what was the question for these players to be the answer, putting them on the pitch? And like with the Monga situation, yeah, he is 15. He can only train with the team twice a week because he's doing his GCSEs. But some of the younger players, it's okay sort of blowing the trumpet, but you've got to back that with actions. And Ruud, as you called him, Chris, Billy Bullshitter. So he was saying all the things about playing the youth, and he just wasn't playing them. And you can't start Monga from giving 90 minutes. You've got to introduce slowly. And he did get half hour in the last game. But there are other players that I do think. I mean, me and my brother a few years ago went to see his, and did we play West Ham in the cup? And what's his name? Not Jake Evans. The young lad.
Well, that narrows it down, Wayne.
Can't write Aluko.
Will Alves. He came on in the cup and he was dribbling past 3 Premier players. And Rogers called him over within a couple of minutes. Says, "Look, stop all that shit, otherwise I'm going to drag you off the pitch." You play the system. But it was so skillful. He got the ability and the quickness of mentality to have the ball in the middle of a load of Premier players. It just took the piss out of them. And that's what Monga did when he came on against Newcastle for 15 minutes. You could just see it straight away. Some players have got it and some people haven't. So Ruud hasn't been able to grasp that, assess it, notice it, incorporate it into the team. And as Manny said, and Jack, he is a bit clueless in that regard. And being an ex-world-class striker, that to me is like a bomb going off in your brain because you're thinking, why can't he see things that all the fans going to the matches, all the people on these pods can see?
I said, Jack, when we got Ruud van Nistelrooy, we got the guy who scored 10 in 10, coaching the guy who got 11 in 11. surely we're going to get goals.
Well,
I
that's
know
what
football, don't I, really? Let's be honest.
do you know what though? That's what you'd hope for. You know, if Jamie Vardy had had a better team around him this season, better players, he'd have scored more goals, hands down. But Ruud van Nistelrooy's made him turn into a bit. If you look at Vardy's heat map this season, it's been very much in his own half. Do you get what I mean? Because we've been defending too much, and then we've only started attacking the last since we've been relegated, beating Southampton, Ipswich, teams that you should be beating, but then you've took the shackles off because the pressure's not there. And if you can't handle the pressure, get out the kitchen. But this is the pressure with Vardy. Vardy's there to be in the box and be there at the right time. But if Leicester's not playing him the ball, what do you do as a striker? You're going to be coming back and helping, aren't you? But this is Ruud's tactics. What is Ruud's tactics? Because he sets them up to defend. He moved from a back five to a back four, then moved it back again. And you're thinking, can this team defend? Have you seen the way this team defends? It leaks goals like a bloody leaking tap every week. And you're thinking, we've conceded a lot of goals this season. Southampton's been the side that have conceded a lot more, haven't they, this season? By I think it's about 6 or 7.
84 they conceded to our 78.
Do you see what I mean? So what is Ruud's initiative? What is his game plan? Because I think it was Scott mentioned it about high standards, and he's obviously fell out with a lot of players, hasn't he? Like your Harry Winkses, your Vestergaards and things like that. But this is the problem. Ruud just... I don't know what his philosophy is. He speaks about bringing the youth through, like Wayne's mentioned, but we've not seen that till very last minute when it should have been very much sooner.
Do you think, Jack, I'll stick with this one and I'll come to Manny with a big question in a second, but do you think that had Vardy had better service, had Vardy scored more goals, and like I say, I've been critical of him, but he hasn't been getting the service, do you think he would have stayed?
See, this is the thing. You don't even know what's happened between him and Rudkin, because if you look at the statement that he brought out, Rudkin's name never got a mention. Everybody else did. They all got a thank you and that. I think if Vardy got offered the new contract, he'd have stayed hands down. Has Rudkin forced him out the door is the big question here for me. I think Vardy would have been loyal to the core and done another year with Leicester City, but something's not been right regarding... the whole, it come out of the blue, didn't it, with him, like, yeah, thank you, Leicester City, thank you for everything. It's just like it reading off a script. You just kind of feel that something was not right between, something's must have happened behind closed doors for me with Vardy, but I don't know, I think he would have stayed, Chris, to be honest, if he got offered a new deal, but people say we should move on from Vardy. Maybe it was the right time to move on to give somebody else a chance, but you've now got to go in the summer transfer window and bring in a better striker, because Daka's not good enough to replace him. Edouard, I mean, he's not been seen all season, has he? So
he's going back.
Look at it now.
That's 90 grand a week. We've got
£4.6 million later spent on his bloody wages. Exactly. That's another poor decision by the club.
Yeah, man. Jack said then about moving on, and I want to move on to Russell Martin. Is obviously the one topic of tonight's conversation. Is there anything that he can bring to this club that would be look, I've said before, if we're going to bring a new manager in, he has got to be better than the one that he's replacing. Otherwise, there's no point. You might as well stick with what you've got. Is there anything he can bring to this club?
He will bring a clear philosophy to the club, a clear identity, a clear style of play, and no ambiguity about what the players should be trying to do. And whether you like it or not, this is what we're going to do, for better or worse, this is it. So you could say that that would be a strength. My issue is what he's trying to achieve isn't right. So he's on the right lines. So in theory, if he wasn't so stubborn, less of an ostrich, and just try to be a little bit more flexible with his style, particularly when you're under pressure. This is a key fault of Russell Martin. I think the big difference between them, as I see it, is they all want to start from the back. But if your defenders are getting extremely well pressed, then Enzo allows you to bypass the first wave of press and dink it into midfield. Russell Martin always believes in playing through the back, which is why you can catch the fullback or the defender napping on the ball because they've been told, I've got to play. Whereas if you see the pressure with Enzo, particularly now under Chelsea, even more so than with us, you are allowed to bypass it. The other one is when you both want to keep touchline wingers really, really wide, right on the touchline. And Russell Martin believes to get the ball to that winger, you've got to play defence to midfield to the winger. And Enzo essentially believes that too. The one difference is, how many times did we see Callum Doyle pinging a 40-yard, 50-yard diagonal to Fatawu, and Wout Faes pinging a 40, 50-yard diagonal crossfield to Mavididi last season? Do you remember those? He was doing that regularly. Russell Martin doesn't want to do that. Now, that is a long ball. Now, people say, I hate Enzo, he doesn't play direct enough. But we saw lots of those last season. But it's about when the defence overshifts to one side. These are little cute points that are little differences. But the other one is, if you're trying to play a very specific system with a clear identity and the rest of it, then I like going to source. So the architect of the modern version of this, and we've done this on this channel several weeks ago, is Guardiola. So if you're going to play that way, I want someone who's been trained by the main man himself, the guy who created it, who told you the exact shape distance between the right wing and the 8 inside of him, exactly what the trigger point is for the 8 to do an underlapping run, to give the winger an option to either go himself or to pass it to the. So we saw, how many times did we see Wilfred Ndidi, for example, underlapping Fatawu. Fatawu would find Wilfred, and Wilfred would do a little dink from the byline to the far post last season. This is structured pattern play that was all come about eventually through Pep and then into Enzo. Russell Martin is doing his interpretation of that. He's not doing the master's methods. So it's an inferior copycat version of Enzo or Pep.
Would that then lead you towards Willy Caballero?
If you want to play that way, which, by the way, I don't want to play that way. I do respect that way, and I loved it under Enzo, but that's not the way I would choose for our club moving forward. But if you are going to go down that road, then why wouldn't you repeat what worked so well before? When we picked Enzo Maresca, none of us, we remembered him a bit of a player, but we didn't have a clue of him as a manager. Well, he's only managed 14 games for Parma and the under-23s. So it was a gamble, but I was quite excited about the gamble. Like, this guy could be brilliant. He could be rubbish. But I'll almost take that over somebody I know is going to be just okay. So, the advantage they did have is that he just won a treble with Man City. The guy knew how to build successful teams. You'd have to be daft not to see how Pep did it. And Pep, we know, does not tolerate poor performance too easily. And if he thought Enzo was worthy of having the assistant manager's job, then clearly we thought the same. I would go the same way. If we think Enzo was a smart guy, then he thinks Willy Caballero was smart enough to be his assistant. Out of all the people he could have chosen, he chose him. And Willy Caballero has played under Ancelotti, Antonio Conte, Pep Guardiola himself. He's played under all three of them. So if he's bright enough, according to Enzo, to be Enzo's assistant, and he's lived in Leicester for a year, and he knows 80% of the squad personally already, surely that would be a better option than Russell Martin to try and do a similar thing to Enzo, right?
Yeah. Scott, don't even go there. I mentioned Southgate once, and my ears still hurt, so don't go there. I'm going to come back to the style because I want to go into that in a bit more detail with you, Manny, when we next come round. But Wayne, I'm looking here. Russell Martin's win percentage, 37.5 at Milton Keynes, 36.3 at Swansea, 45.2 at Southampton. At Leicester, Steve Cooper was 20%. Ruud van Nistelrooy is still only 15%. Last time we had a manager as low as 15.79. Last time we had a manager as low as that. Hang on, I'm going back. I'm in 2007 at the moment. There we go. Dave Bassett in 2001, 2002. That was 14.29. when he stood up and Mickey Adams took over. So on that, you've got to say maybe he can do it, but there's just so many question marks. And how is it in this industry? Look, if you know, if you've got an employee that you sacked because they were bloody awful at the job, then they went and got another job doing exactly the same somewhere else, you'd be thinking, what's going on? You know, to just that. But he's been sacked because he was at a worse team than Leicester were, and yet he's being linked.
Yeah, there's only so many managers to go around, isn't there? I mean, I've got a friend who played football on Sunday morning with, and he's an Arsenal supporter, and they just appointed Andrea Berta, was it last year? They've already made just on the cusp of making 2 significant signings. So I think, as like Jack and Manny said, other people, it's the sporting director side of things we've got to get right, and then they will govern how we go forward, and which kind of manager we sort of appoint. But the thing is, the win ratios, it's like your XG can be misleading. In the total scores, it's good for general ideas, and it shows you if you've got a high XG, you're in the key areas in front of goal. But yeah, the win percentages, it depends what league you're in, because look at the win percentages of the promoted side, of the automatically promoted sides. It's like Leeds, Burnley, fantastic. They've had such a tight defence. Let's see how many goals are let in the Premier season. If you don't bring things up. And I do think you have to change. It's all right being with Pep style or, but all the best teams like your Liverpool or your Man Cities, they would have people. That I get why he wanted Vestergaard, because you do need people, like Manny says, to punch the diagonal passes over to the wingers, or to punch that ball through to Vardy or to somebody as in number 10 for them to skip one player and have a shot. And I think that it's whether we've got players to do that. I do think we have next season in the Championship, because it's such a lower standard. But you've got to have one eye on building for the Premier. And that is just the big picture of how do you want to approach next season.
Good news is, Jack, and let's have a bit of good news, shall we? I mean, you will judge how good this news is. We're sat on 25 points at the moment.
Yeah.
If we can get anything from Bournemouth on Sunday, well, first of all, we have already equalled Southampton when they got relegated with us a couple of seasons ago. We're actually have got more points than Sheffield United next season, so let's rejoice in that. More points than Burnley last season. That's something else to rejoice in. And like I say, if we can get 1 point at least against Bournemouth, we'll have equalled Luton Town's record last season as well. Do we go for a manager, Jack, that is going to bring us straight back up, or a manager that is going to have a philosophy and a plan and a long-term strategy?
The thing is, well, Leicester is the case of, longevity is obviously main aim. Everyone uses that when they want to appoint a manager. They'll always come out and say, this is the long-term future appointment. You look at Watford, they'll say long-term appointment, and the manager lasts bloody 6 months every time. Do you get what I mean? That's not exactly long month, is it? So Leicester have got to sort of go into the Championship, take whatever the EFL or whatever's going to throw us, take the points deduction and that, because that's what it is. We've been charged this time, haven't we? So we're just going to accept the punishment for what it is. But then it's finding a way now to rebuild. We need a rebuild massively. We're going to lose a lot of players. But then you've got to obviously bring in the right manager to sort of acquire the style of football you actually want to play. Me and Manny talked about it earlier about Fatawu, Monga, them types of players who are going to be key to this style of football. You've got to find the right style of football to suit the squad to a T. It might not even be a bad thing, Chris, staying in the Championship for a season or so, because you want to sort of strip it down, go back to basics and do what was working for you before. Because if you sort of go with the whole thing this season of, yeah, but we've got to go back up next season. Yes, financially we have, but you're going to end up in the same pickle the season after because you're going to come straight back down again. So you need to find a manager who's long term, who is you've got to have a sort of blueprint now going forward. But you trust in these same individuals who have made the same problems time and time again to trust to rebuild this squad. And Rudkin and Top's trusted Rudkin for many years since his dad's been here as well, and Rudkin's time at Leicester has become stale. It has, and we need to move him on. We're not going to sack him, are we? He's not going to sack him. As much as we'd love him to do that sort of appointment, but you've got to move him on. These problems only get sorted by moving the problems on who have caused these problems. So you've got to find the issue. Where's the issue coming from? And this is where you got to sort this. But this is about Top having that ruthless side in him, and I don't think he has.
No. Say hi to Locks from Blue Tinted Glasses. Locks, it's nearly 9:30. It's past your bedtime, isn't it? What are you still doing up now? Come on, get to bed, young man. Manny, sorry, I couldn't resist that. Manny, Daniel Farke, Scott Parker, Russell Martin, Kieran McKenna. They're all managers that have managed championship clubs, got them promoted, and got them relegated again the same season. Is it possible to have a style that's going to work for you in the championship that is also going to work for you in... And I forgot what's he called at Burnley that was there.
Victor Company.
Yes, I forgot to mention him as well. So is it possible to have a style that works in the championship that can... we're talking about getting a manager in, going for a style, sticking with that style, and then Gavin has one that also works in the Premier League.
I don't think it's possible to have a singular style that will do both, because they're two different scenarios. Scenario A in the championship, we're the big fish, we're the big team. Those teams don't necessarily want to commit numbers attacking us. They're happy for us to have the ball around the halfway line. They won't press until you get into the last third. Then they'll try and press. That's not how any team approaches us in the Premier League. In the Premier League, they're gunning for us from the first second. It's completely different. So what do you need to do? You can either do one style that works in the championship and try and transition to another style, or my personal preference is to play a hybrid style. So what do I mean by that? And there's a good question in the chat, which somebody said is, what would I like for us to go for? I often talk about theory, but so what is the solution as I see it? The solution I see it is you have to get to where the end point is, and the end point is staying in the Premier League and ideally building towards mid-table stability, and dare I say it, back to pushing for European spots, which we once did. If the way that I see it, if Brighton and Brentford and Bournemouth can do it, then we can do it. So how do we get there? I'm not too fussed about the style in the championship, because I think whether you play Sean Dyche way, Russell Martin way, Enzo way, or any other way, my experience of the championship is everyone else is so crap that we should be in the top 6 without even blinking. Like, honestly, Mr. Magoo himself could probably keep us in the top 6. So I'm not worried about the top 6 so much. I'm focused on building today what will work for tomorrow. And what will work for tomorrow is what I call, and this is definitely a Manny creation, we'll see if it takes off, I call it throttle ball. So it's actually not just me who's doing it. Slot does a version of it. It's either a 3-3-4 or a 3-2-5, believe it or not. And what you do is you try and force the opposition back by committing numbers, and then compete with the ball with high intensity in 2 waves. You've got the front 4, a second wave of 3. You all compete for the ball in a high up area. If you win the ball in a high up area, you attack whilst the defence is not organised. And ideally, if you've got speed, technicality, mobility and energy, you can catch people really, really quickly. And there's a good example of a goal of that the other day. Aston Villa played Bournemouth. Semenyo was caught around the left-back spot trying to dribble through 3 players. They won the ball, crossed it immediately, and Watkins just had a little touch in from inside the box. Between winning the ball and scoring the goal was about 2.5 seconds. It was bang, bang, instant. They committed numbers forward, they win the ball high forward, and then go from there. I think that is a direct result of everybody having to face Pep. It's like, how do I compete against this? If we try and play them in a game of possession football, they're going to beat us, right? They're just more adept at it. They've got better quality of players. So we have to find our solution. And my way would be, you can play that throttle ball in the Championship and squeeze teams up high, and that will actually work in the Championship. It might be a bit harder than it would be kind of in the Premier League, because you'll have to keep the ball in the midfield. But we're trying to build a technical unit as part of that too. You want technicality, speed, physicality, intensity. And in order to have intensity, people are going to close down 90 minutes, 100 minutes these days. Not even 90 anymore, it's 100. How are you going to close down for all those minutes? Can you see Yannick Vestergaard closing people down for 90 minutes? Can you see Jordan Ayew or Cordova Reed closing people down for 100 minutes? They'll be blowing after 60. No chance. So you need to build a young, high-energy outfit, which actually works, because all of us would like to go youth, right? We've got lots of decent young players. What have they been learning? They've been learning defensively, press, keep your shape, and when you're attacking, go for it. So someone like Jeremy Monga, if you actually watch him, it's not just his attacking stuff. Watch him in defence. Watch how much he runs back and covers and helps his fullback out. That's ugly stuff. He's doing that. Fatawi, absolutely brilliant defensively. Abdul Fatawi wins headers, chases back, helps the guy out, has the energy to get back, but then get forward again. So I would go down that way, build a throttle ball team with young, energetic, young players with speed, technicality, determination, intensity.
And that man is not Russell Martin that can do that.
The best version I can find doing that is the guy who is he's called Merlin Polzin. He is first or second in Bundesliga B. Bundesliga B is where Brighton appointed their manager from, and he's just taken to mid-table in the Premier League. So, he didn't really need Bundesliga A or Premier League experience to do it. He's 35 years old. I've seen several videos of him explaining his philosophy ideas, and it is very much that. You commit numbers forward, you squeeze the team, you choke them high up, and when the ball pops out, you attack.
No, I mean, that would be good. So I'm presuming from this, we are going to have so many of these shows this summer. Every time there's somebody's linked, so I'm sure it would be that. We're guessing that nobody here actually wants Russell Martin.
No.
We've got three no's there. It's a bit like X Factor, isn't it?
Can I give LTID a shot? I think it was Brad on one of your other shows suggested Sebastian Hoeneß from Stuttgart. That's a smart suggestion.
Well, it was Craig, because the two that
was it Craig? Sorry, it was Craig.
Yeah,
was it?
yeah.
Apologies.
Sebastian Hoeneß, who likes to play a 4-2-3-1.
A very interesting shout he made there. He's
Casper Hoyland. He is
Danish manager.
Denmark. He's
former
the
Danish
Denmark
manager, wasn't he?
Yeah, 3-4-1-2. Two probably very good managers who would fit in. Look, Wayne. People are saying, and we'll wind it in now, but people are saying, well, yeah, this isn't the Leicester of 6-7 years ago when we were at the top competing. We're going to attract good managers. But if somebody wants to make a name for themselves, when you look at Leicester as a setup, you look at a owner that will actually still back his manager to a degree when he got the freedom to do that. A training facility which probably one of the best in Europe. It is still a catch for somebody, isn't it, to get us and turn us round?
Very much. It's a great project, and to be honest, I mean, historically we are 23rd, in between 22nd and 23rd. So we've always popped between the two divisions historically, and under King Power, it sort of exceeded all expectations really, in the longevity of it as well. And under Brendan Rodgers, I mean, we played some bloody. In the first couple of years, that football was. I mean, Man City, we went toe-to-toe with all of them, played quick fire, one-touch, two-touch football, very incisive, intelligent, attacking during certain phases, and we just didn't quite make it. So I see the Championship as a good opportunity. At first, yeah, it's disappointing, especially for the younger fans, maybe more on social media. But it is a really good opportunity for people like Mongo. Let's find out about Alves, Braybrook, all the young players, Ben Nelson, Howalidu, and let's just give them a go. And to be honest, it's equivalent of sending a load of these young players out on loan. But we are actually they're all part of the team in the Championship. It is a really good opportunity, and it's like Danny Roll at Sheffield. I watched an interview with Charlie Austin, and he says that Danny Roll was coach under Hasenhüttl, who's now at Sheffield Wednesday, and he says he played the high press, super fit players, but he said you've got to have the players to do that. And he said under Hasenhüttl, Danny Roll did virtually all the coaching. Hasenhüttl just oversaw the thing. So I think there are a lot of good managers that not just in the Pep mold. I think there's just a lot of really good managers around, and we are a big prospect. Got loads of possibilities. I'm really hopeful if we get the right person in, we'll build to get him back in the Premier.
He wasn't the assistant when we beat them 9-0, was he?
Well, he might have been, yeah, but
I'm just thinking.
Look at Gerrard now with Coventry. He's made his mistakes, but I do think managers need to get tested. Like in anything, if you've got a business, you've got to go through some tough times. Then you learn.
You're not talking about Gerrard, the manager, are you?
No, but it just shows you that he's dropped down.
Don't know whether is he a player? Is he a player for Coventry that you're referring to, or is it the manager? Because manager at Coventry is Lampard, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Yeah, Lampard then. Yeah, sorry, Lampard.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of protégés from coaches trying to make their own way. So you've seen Danny Roll get out of Ralph Hasenhüttl's shadow and try and make his own way in the game. You've seen Enzo get out of Pep's shadow and make his own way in the game. Francisco Farioli, another name that European football fans will love. He's just choked the title with Ajax. Actually, they had a 9-point lead with 6 games to go, and I think they duffed it in the last minute of the last day to PSV. But he's 35 years old or something. I think he got the Ajax job at 33. So, and he's actually Robert De Serbi's protege. So you're seeing these I was going to say Sons of Sam, but that's probably a bit harsh actually. But you're seeing,
probably yes.
You're seeing these disciples of certain coaches who are, Ralf Rangnick had Jurgen Klopp as one of his disciples. So you are seeing people take previous ideas, young people, and the smartest ones of those, trying to move those ideas forward and continue to evolve the game. That's why I'm reluctant with Enzo, because I think it's a 15-year-old system that's in its dying days. It's like the last days of Rome this system's having. And I think when Pep goes in a couple of years, you're going to see a lot of that go out of fashion too, and we'll move on to something else. So I think we've just got to keep on the cutting edge of things and say what isn't work. It's not about what's working today. It's what will work for us tomorrow and the day after.
I tell you, if you speak to any Chelsea fans, most of them can't stand Enzo Ball. Jack, I think here you've got the sporting director, we've got a couple of managers, we've got a CEO, we've got a loans manager. It was just us four could just go and sort it all out, couldn't we?
We could.
But, and I've forgotten the question I was going to ask you now.
Could do worse than getting me in the room.
Sneak into Seagrave, man. You go on sneaking in your camo.
So I seriously, I would love it if they invited blue tinted glasses, some of us, just to come over the summer and say, look, come down, have a Seagrave, no cameras or nothing, but look, we hear what you've been saying during the season. This is the reality of the stuff behind the scenes, and I would love to have a football chat with Rudkin or whoever it is, Andrew Neville or any of those, just to try and I need these answers questions, because it's like a puzzle where you think you've got the solution but no one else sees it, and I'm so frustrated by that all the time. And I think they just keep making silly schoolboy errors, just to people who just watch football a little bit. It
would be nice, I agree, to have any of the Leicester channels there, just to sort of and for them to connect and show us they're human, if you like. And again, fucking hell, I had the question, then I remembered it, and I've forgotten it again. Shut up, Manny. Shut up.
Sorry.
Jack, what was I going to ask you? It is really, really gone. I'm sorry, Jack. But I'm going to come round. I'll start with you on this one then, Jack. I'm just seeing if it was something that was actually put in the chat or not. Where are we? No, it is totally gone. But the question is, shout out to Jack and Manny, third show today. Yeah, they're on steroids. That's what it is.
We're just keeping ourselves awake, aren't we, Manny?
No, look, it's been fun today, but no, like I said, I've cleared my schedule this week because I think the Russell Martin stuff. Now. Russell Martin, people need to out there to listen as to the reasoning and the rationale why we shouldn't do him. I don't just want to say I don't like him because I just don't like the guy. I want to give the exact reasons why I don't like him and why it's a problem. Yeah, and there are some benefits. Let's be fair. It's not all one side terrible. But again, I keep going on about it. It's about the best in class, like a footballer player. If we wanted a player, we'd scout. In theory, you'd scour the world, find the best talent you can find, and then eventually he would move on. Why is it with managers? Like if we scouted managers, we found Enzo, and then a club paid us compensation, we moved him on. Brighton sold Harry Potter, Graham Potter, I know, Harry Potter to Chelsea, made 15 million quid. When we look at managers, we should look at it in a similar way. Is this manager likely to be wanted by a Man United, a Chelsea, a Real Madrid, or not? Now, with Enzo, it was the case. So that probably tells you that you're onto the right thing or onto something smart. Do any of us see Russell Martin leaving us for Chelsea or Man United?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
There you go.
Shut up now, Manny. I've remembered the question. No, I would not like to see Brad and Manny have an argument. Oh, I would actually, because I could just literally just sit here, put my feet up and read a book for an hour. That would be a great hosting job.
Already had one with Nick today.
Yeah, I heard. But no, Jack, please don't let me forget it again. If you're an upcoming young manager, you're not going to get a job in the Premier League, are you? Let's be honest with you. If they get rid of, Man United, they're never going to look at somebody like the Stockport manager that's been mentioned and say, oh, you know what, we'll give him a go. They're all going to be going for names, if you like. So for somebody to look at us, that is the way. I think Jack's printing off his CV for the job, are you, Jack?
I've got a printer going, mate, as we speak. I'm just waiting for Ruud sacking. No joking.
He's got it there on the. I nearly said facts. How old is that? But these managers got to look and say the way to get to the top is to go in at the Championship level with a club like Leicester. If you want to say sleeping giant, that's fine. But do it. That is the way for them to get to the top level, isn't it?
Yeah, every manager's got to start somewhere.
I got it out. I got it. I got the question out.
Fantastic. Every manager's got to start somewhere. You've got to start in the lower leagues and work your way up. If you want to be the best, everyone starts somewhere in life, don't they? And this is it. You look at Enzo, right? He worked in the Italian league and that for a bit, and then went to Man City with Pep, worked as his number 2. He worked with the under-23s at Man City, so he started somewhere. And then all of a sudden, he worked his way to Leicester and then worked his way up to Man City. Not Man City, Chelsea. So every manager's got to start somewhere. I think this is where Lampard went wrong, Chris, to be fair. He should have stayed at Derby, worked his way from Derby. But he kind of took that step too quickly to Chelsea, and, it kind of hindered his career a bit. And you've always got to have that as a manager. It's like some of these smaller leagues in like the German league, the Bundesliga 2, the Serie C, the Serie B, and that. You've always got to start somewhere if you want to get big in life. And I agree. And this is what maybe we need to look for and be smarter with. And I agree with what Manny's saying. Maybe look for these managers in the European leagues, because it could be someone one day who could be bloody managing Man City, and you think, you know what? yeah, he did all right at Leicester. You know, what good things we've actually had here. But, you know, sometimes these no-names, Chris, turn into the big names in football.
Do you know what it is about these no-names, Jack? Right, if you're a no-name, you have to work 2 or 3 times as hard to get a job, to win people over, to get people to trust you, to get people to believe you, because they're going to say, well, what level of football did you play at? So if you're an ex-manager, if you're an ex-player like Lampard or Gerrard or Rooney, how many chances does he get? You get opportunities thrown at you. So some of these no-names, they know that they have to work harder, they have to study harder, they have to be more dedicated, more committed, you know, more everything in order to get their job. So if those people have elevated themselves from Nowheresville to Somewheresville, you've got to try and capture them on that trajectory. There's something about this individual that is special. Let's not forget, Jose Mourinho was Bobby Robson's translator. That's how he started in the game. He was Bobby Robson's translator at Barcelona. But he was talking to Bobby Robson. He was whispering ideas to him. Bobby said, this guy's quite bright. I think I'm going to give him a coaching job. He could do it. And look how he progressed. Mourinho had to convince, work, scratch, start off as a translator. Forget about names. Names get it given to them. Someone who's not a name, who's got the performance to back it up, has had to work 2 or 3 times harder to get to where he is.
I agree.
Right. We're gonna round it off now, because I'm very conscious of the fact that you two are probably, like I say, only about your 5th Red Bull. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to keep it to the same 3 every time. We're going to do this every time a name comes up, and we'll just see, a bit like a last man standing sort of thing. But somebody said earlier, Scott it was, would the panel stick with Ruud rather than Martin? So it's a daddy chip sort of situation, Wayne. Let's come to you first. Would you stick with Ruud or would you go with Martin?
In comparison to who they might appoint.
Just if it was going to be between those two.
Oh, Ruud.
Ruud, or would you sack Ruud and get Martin?
No, I'd keep Ruud and forget Martin. Forget him.
Jack? I know it's horrible, isn't it? It's a rock and hard place, like the title of the show says.
It is. I think Martin's worse than Ruud, if I'm honest. It'd be a worse off for Leicester, but I think I'd stick with Van Nistelrooy because, unless something better and more suitable comes along, then maybe drop Ruud van Nistelrooy and go with that better person. But until something like that comes along, I think they've got to either stick with him and see what happens. But I don't think Van Nistelrooy. You've not got to swap Van Nistelrooy for bloody Russell Martin. It's the no-go.
We're going to have it run down and see. Like I say, every time a new one comes along, we'll compare them.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, Craig, thanks for popping in. There's no hope for you, mate. Absolutely no hope for you in life. Let me just put it that way. Let alone anywhere else. Last word, Manny. Ruud or Martin?
The only Martin I like is Dean Martin, and I'm sorry, Russell, that's not amore with you. So I'll stick with Ruud.
Brilliant. So at the moment, Ruud is everybody's favourite. Everybody, yes. Yeah. Guys, thank you so very much. Jack, give a shout out to the final whistle.
Yeah, go and follow us at the final whistle. Go and check out the show earlier on when we chatted about Russell Martin. We had Martin Sanders on about Southampton's time with Russell Martin. We also had my guest to that side, Manny, on earlier on, where it caused a bit of carnage, but we got through it in the end. As we
Manny causing carnage.
Yeah, if you watch it back, you'll see what happens.
I've been on one today, sorry.
Yeah, we've had a good show earlier on. It's definitely worth a watch. Go and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button for me, and go and check out my content.
Manny, you work for. So you're part of Blue Tinted Glasses. Give them a shout out.
Yeah, Blue Tinted Glasses on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Friday night we've got the end of season awards show. I know Lox has been actually doing some work for once in preparation for it, which is nice to see. We should have some. I've seen some of the previews. It's going to be quite funny, actually. So tune into that Friday night.
Brilliant. And Wayne, how do people follow you?
on X, I think, but I'm not too worried about that, Chris.
Yeah, no.
Just
Well,
here for the banter. Here for the banter. Yeah.
just say, well, hey, we've been nice to you tonight. Wayne, stay on because I need to talk to you about tomorrow night. Guys, thank you very much. I'll be back at 7 tomorrow with Rob Tanner. Be sure to check us out there. And then later on with the prediction show, which is what I want to talk to you about, Wayne. But thanks so much, guys. And we'll do it all again soon, no doubt.
Cheers, lads.
See you later.
Thanks to Jack. Thanks to Manny. And details, like I say, in the descriptions below. I'll be adding those later. Like Scott said here, before you leave, smash the like button to like this channel. Also show appreciation to the Final Whistle, Blue Tinted Glasses, and subscribe to this channel. Indeed. You've got to say, Scott, you need to get a job at the United Nations. You really do. Thanks very much, everybody. Like I say, I'll be back tomorrow night at 7 with one thing or another. And we will see you there. And I'm running out of things to say because I'm ready for my bed as well. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night now.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.